As you saw in part 1 of the video, these cards were just munched.
Way out when it fades out, can hide in the dark. 'Cause when the moonlight on the full rise is going down, nothing can stop or endanger us, so don't play with us, could be dangerous.
Hey folks, if you live in a cold or damp environment, kind of like I do in the winter times, you might have had this happen to you, where your foil cards will get a very distinct bend in them. And you can see all these cards here have curved in the same direction. And it happens because the foil basically does not absorb moisture nearly as much as the back of the card, which is basically paper. And so as the card absorbs moisture, this back layer gets thicker due to the absorption, and it forms the card to turn. So, I've heard that it can happen in the opposite direction when they get super dry, that the cardboard layer will shrink and it'll actually have the reverse curve. I've personally never seen that, but I understand that it can happen. The theory's legit, but I've never seen it actually, even in pictures. But I'm going to go over a couple of ways that you can remove this curve, and we're going to do a head-to-head test, and you can decide for yourself which way you think is best. 4 of these cards here are basically without sleeves, so theoretically, if you're trying to remove moisture from a card, you probably don't want to have it inside a sleeve because it's going to take longer. Now, the moisture will have to come out the actual seam rather than just seep out of the card from all corners, all areas. So the first way we're going to do is pretty simple, and most likely all of you have the ability to do this right here in your homes, and it's just to grab a fairly good size heavy book. And I don't have a lot of space here, so whoops, there, I already bumped the camera. But I've already taken a couple of sheets of blank paper, just white paper in here, because you obviously you don't want any of the ink in the book you use or the print to transfer into the card. That'd be horrific. So I'm just gonna, I don't know if you can see this here, but I'm just lining up 3 cards each. I'll take one of the sleeved cards and 2 of the non-sleeved cards. I'm just gonna throw them inside the book, and I will put a weight on top of this. As you can see, it doesn't really want to stay down naturally, and the whole idea is to press it. So that's method 1, pretty simple. And I will get a book, and if you just want to get a little bit more advanced, it's really not that much more expensive. A good heavy book, of course you already have one most likely, but if you were to go out and buy one just for this, it's going to cost you $18-20 anyway to get a nice hardback book. But what this is called a flower press. Now it's designed to, like the name suggests, flatten flowers. And there's usually a sponge layer because flowers have a thickness to it. You don't want to just cremate the flower, and you want it to have some of its shape still. But it's basically just 2 pieces of very rigid wood, and you get basically a lining so that it doesn't seep. When you're doing flowers, you don't want to damage this part, which is the drying element. It's just another piece of very porous paper, but there is a grain to it. So this is another reason why you want to use these, because it keeps your card, potentially if you really press down on it, your card could retain these indentations, and you obviously don't want that to happen. So what I'm going to do is take the base layer, the first wooden part. I'm going to put down the drying agent first, that side down, and then the lining on top of that. I use 2 sheets of lining, and they all come together in the packet. The drying agent is in a Ziploc because it's really designed to suck up moisture, and so if you just leave it out in a damp environment, you're gonna have a soggy drying plate, which you don't want to happen. So make sure you store that in the Ziploc and dry. And so on top of that lining, now we're going to take the other cards. Like I said, we're going to do, it barely fits, so perfect actually. So we're going to take, I don't know if you can see that, we took the 3 cards, 2 in the foil, or two loose foils, and then 1 in the sleeve. I'm just going to lay that down there. And reverse order, now you're going to go lining next on top of that, and then the drying plate. Get down there on it and puts a little pressure on it. Make sure the cards aren't, hanging out the side anyway, but there you go. So then you have the outer layer as the cardboard, then the next layer in on both top and bottom is the drying agent, and then you have the lining, and then the cards in the middle. Now these flower presses, like I said, they're really cheap. This one I believe I got for $13, $12.99 on Amazon. They come bigger and fancier, but this works. And they come with straps, so technically they give you Velcro straps that you can put around and really cinch down on it. But to be honest, I think it's just as easy to just place something heavy on it like you do with the book. But either way, so I'm just going to leave these here literally overnight. Now probably doesn't take full 24 hours, but that's what we're going to do. For the book, this is full of metal cards. I'm just going to pop that on top of the book and leave it there as a weight. Now this one, unfortunately, like I said, this paper is really absorbent. So you don't want to just leave it out, because obviously this is happening because you're living in a damp environment. So what you want to do is they provide you with these bags. If not, you can use any Ziploc, but they give you extras of the bag that the drying agent comes in. And you're going to want to stick the whole thing inside there. Otherwise, when you come back, in hours or a day, basically, that drying agent is going to have absorbed a whole bunch of water from the air, and it's just going to make the cards worse. It's going to basically have the opposite effect of what you want. So go ahead and take the Ziploc that it comes with, or if it didn't happen to come with one, go get one out of your cupboard or whatever. Try and get a good amount of the air out, because obviously that air in there is even damp. And those drying agents are refreshable, so you can heat them up. I think I've seen them where they say maybe pop it in the microwave, and then after it's heated and dried, you want to make sure you put it right back in these sleeves so the same thing doesn't happen again. But I'm going to leave that one there, and I'm going to go find a weight for that one as well. But in the meantime, that was part 1 of the video. I will come back and do part 2. Well, like I said, I'm going to target about 24 hours just to give it one solid day. I'm sure if you did it before you went to bed and you woke up in the morning, you can do that too and be fine. And I've seen people where they rush and do it, and they don't get the full curve out, but they get enough of the curve out. Let's just say you're heading to a competition and one of the cards you're using to compete with is curved. Obviously, you can't have that. I don't know if I don't actually play, but I still know that this is a law or a rule in most official tournaments, because it's basically marking the card. Now as you shuffle your deck or as you place your deck, you basically know that curved card is blank. So you know what it is and you know where it is, and it's basically cheating. So anyway, if you wanted to rush and do it, I'm sure a couple hours will get most of the curve out. But like I said, we're going to leave this overnight, and I'll see you in part 2. Alright folks, back with day 2, part 2 of my card flattening video. And we're going to see the results here together. I'm sure you saw the first part because I'm going to stick these together in one video, but here's the book and here's the flower press. Now, I'm expecting pretty similar results, but we'll find out together exactly what happens. Oops. Oh my god. Alright, here's the 3 cards from the book. Actually, pretty substantial curve still there, so now I'm hoping the flower press does it much better. Here's the one in the sleeve. I would say pretty similar result. Maybe actually a little bit more curvature still in the sleeved card, as you might expect. So it looks like if you're going to put it in a book, it's going to take a little longer. That was almost exactly 1 day. Yesterday's video I did around, I believe, 1:30, and it's about noon now, so just 90 minutes short of a full 24 hours. Here is the flower press, which has the added benefit of having the drying agent, which really actually sucks the water out of the material. Yes, actually, already much better. I don't know if you can tell there, but that card's was extremely warped when it went in, and now it's pretty flat, not anything anyone would bat an eye at. And I've been told, this is not first-hand information, but I've seen that warped cards, rolled cards like that, will not affect grading. So it's just a matter of cosmetics. It's a matter of getting your cards back into shape so you can play and not have them labeled as marked for tournaments and whatnot. As you can see, the one in the sleeve still maintains a fair amount of curl to it. So yes, it definitely makes sense that if you're going to try and remove moisture out of the cards, don't put them in sleeves. It'll probably still work, but it'll take longer. And I think, like I said, this method's a little safer because you're not going to transfer ink from the pages or whatnot, and it's actually, it's actually what it's designed to do. And I'll show you what I mean. This is one that's been sealed, so no moisture can get into it. And this is the exact same thing. If it were to let sit out, that's how much moisture it can. It's literally like a sponge. So that's why you need to put it in a Ziploc to keep all the atmospheric moisture out. And that is why it's so good at removing the moisture out of the card, because that's what it's designed to do. So I think that's pretty conclusive. If I were to do this again to get it perfectly flat, I think I would use a heavier weight than just a box of cards. This is pretty heavy. It is metal cards, so this is about, I would say a couple pounds. But if you really want to get these things flat, I would suggest getting this cheap, flower press like this. Like I said, once again, this cost me like $12.95 on Amazon. I'm sure eBay has them too, and you can get them in all dimensions. This one, as you can see, held about 3 cards in a single layer. You can do multiple layers because they give you about 6 of these drying agents that, like I said, are reusable. And so you can do 2 layers, which would be 9 cards. And I think that's probably my recommendation. I think it's the best way. I know a lot of people will say to take a hair dryer or some sort of heat gun to it. Maybe if you have one that operates on really low temperatures, but the idea of blasting hot air at my card is not something that I want to do. But anyway, I think that's pretty conclusive. I think the flower press worked, and it worked a little bit better than a heavy book, at least in a 24-hour period. Like I said, I think I would use a heavier weight, and I think that would accelerate it as well as give you a little bit better results. But basically, as you saw in part 1 of the video, these cards were just munched. They were basically like this to begin with, and now they're like this. So there you go. Hope that helped. I think that's the method I'm going to be using moving forward, and thanks for watching.